Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, bringing a brand new spoiler discussion. And today I'm going to be talking about the Acolyte Season 1, Episode 7, titled Choice, which is now streaming on Disney Plus as of today. And for anyone that is tuning in a little bit later on, or they're watching this, you might be thinking, why on earth is he recording in broad daylight? Why is he recording early if you're joining us live? Well, the answer is England are playing tonight in a very big football game, so 8 o'clock cannot be done, and we kind of need to get the video out to do a couple of other videos this week. So this is why it's a lot earlier. I doubt there'll be anyone watching in America because it's the middle of the night over there. The episode did launch at 2 a.m., and I was awake at 2 a.m. watching this, which was very, not random, not unintentional. I'm off work this week for some personal stuff, and I just thought, it was 1:30. I was still awake. I was like, let's hold out another 30 minutes. Let's watch this live, and then let's go to bed and record in the morning so I can sleep on the episode. So I did watch this as it came out, and I've got to say, it does feel like there's old Game of Thrones era things when you used to be able to watch it live at 2 o'clock, and then people are tweeting it on the timeline, or you're seeing spoilers cropping up left, right, and center. So it was a bit strange watching it this early. And I guess this is one of the most integral episodes of the series. Obviously, I'm recording alone today. As I mentioned, I'm recording a lot earlier. It's the middle of the day. Everyone else is at work. So I don't mind doing this one solo. But next week, we should have 3 or 4 of us on for the finale. So there's going to be a lot to also talk about and speculate for that finale. But I guess what we're going to talk about with the core of today is something we kind of knew was coming, that we thought it could have been last week. And this is, of course, that we got I guess we could call it the second half of the Brendock flashback, or as the episode was titled, Choice. Now, truth might be a better word for this one, because we obviously did find out what happened, and I'm going to kind of talk through those core story points. And as I said, if anyone is watching live, very doubtful, comment your thoughts on the Acolyte, what you thought of today. Is this a make or break episode? Did you like episode 3? You've come to this. Are you planning on watching it on different viewing orders? I've seen one of my friends tweet that they're going to be watching episode 3 and 7 and then 1, 2, 5, 6, which would be very interesting ahead of the finale next week. But I'm curious what people think. So do comment. If you're not watching it live, do not worry. Leave a comment on and we will reply to them as well. And if you do like this video, then you can, of course, share it around to get the subscribers going. We're almost at 3K. I've seen a lot of films in the last week, a lot of 2024 releases. I should be cranking out some reviews. The should is the key word there. So there is a lot more stuff happening. And when we've got videos to announce, we tend to put them on social media. So linktree.com/cinemasavvy. And we've got a link to Redbubble in the description below. And that's where we talk about when we're going live, etc., etc. But as I said, let's go back to this. And I'm going to kind of talk through some of the bigger stuff of this episode. It's going to be a little bit harder not to bounce off. But I guess we're just going to start at the core. I mentioned we find out the truth in this episode. Very different to what I thought. And there's some things that worked for me and some things that didn't. Now, I know that through the marketing, there are certain scenes that hadn't been shown in the series yet that we, the audience, were anticipating today or last week. So we now have a campaign that's like up to date. And normally the Star Wars shows that does happen by episode 3 or 4. But this one, of course, was Torben all over the trailers and whatnot. The scars on the face, I've put them as the thumbnail. I've chosen a less spoilery photo than what I could have done and what kind of wanted to do. But I guess we'll start with the Jedi on the planet, and they're not there to look for twins, not there to find twins. They're just on a mission with not metal detectors, but I guess like force detectors. There's been a divergence on the planet. They're trying to find out how there is life with what happened 100 years ago. I'm guessing that's a core of the High Republic storybooks. I'm sure this has been touched upon. People know, Phil can correct me next week, but it's one of them where we're obviously getting a bit of this is starting to happen. And the key here is Torben. And this is going to be a really interesting episode talking about, he's appeared in 3 episodes, 2 of which are flashbacks. 1 is a current day one where he obviously commits suicide based on what he's done. So we know there was something bad that happened. We know something went down. And the fact that he's indirectly responsible for a lot of it, lack of patience to get talking about how the Jedi, not the Jedi bin, but I'm pretty sure it's a Qui-Gon Jinn quote. But it is very interesting. The turn of events that led from this was all down to the fact that this young Padawan, he just wanted to go home. He's on a school trip. He's had enough. He's bored. We've all been there. We've all done that. We just want to get out. We want to get back to where we're from. We want to get the job done. So whilst they are obviously scouring this planet for several weeks with nothing, we obviously get I guess we could call it the, not update, but we start to see the events of episode 3. We're seeing the girls by the tree. We're seeing Sol, how it's framed in episode 3 is very much him stalking them. It cut to him in the horizon, in the background, like the Jedi had been looking for them. But actually, it was discovered by mere chance. And he feels a connection with the Force to Osha of this. And this is where I've really enjoyed the storytelling of today's episode. And it goes back to what we've said across the series. It is an 8-episode show, and you're not going to have the piece of the puzzle connected until the end. Episode 7 has given us a lot of these puzzle pieces. And I really like that they tried this different storytelling. And I'm kind of calling it the point of view storytelling. That episode 3 was, of course, almost from Osha's perspective. And today we got a combination of May's perspective and Sol's. So it's hard to narrow it down into one of the two. But we, of course, have got, I guess, the definitive version of events that took place that has put this storyline responsible for the death of May until she appeared later, for Osha to think her sister's been killed, for the fire that kickstarted it all. We have a lot of answers explained. And I very much enjoy the fact that we spend a lot more time with Jedi Master Indira, of course, killed in the opening scene of episode 1, Trinity from the Matrix, Carrie Moss. A lot of people are excited to see her in Star Wars. She's all over the marketing campaigns. And she, of course, doesn't get any further than that. So I wanted to see, is she this terrible person? Like, what was her position in the events of the story of the season? And there's so many little questions that come together for this. And she's kind of not harmless, but she is following it by the book. She says that the council won't train Osha. She's too old. We've had that before. And it's incredible how history repeats itself in a different way. But we're kind of sticking with her for a bit. And obviously at the finale, we'll get to that, what happens with her at the end and her involvement in this. But she is very much the moral compass for this and says how it is to Sol. And we know based off last week that Sol had done something terrible. There was a lot of, not necessarily grief, but he was hiding something. And May kind of knew what Sol had done. Osha didn't. So it was very interesting to see how they were going to build up for this. And what I didn't expect it was to be Torbin being responsible. The fact that he realizes with these twins, with the Force connection to them, we can just grab the twins, take them back to Coruscant, mission accomplished, drop and done. And the failure from Torbin is quite remarkable. And in the storytelling perspective, I thought it was very interesting that we have this arrogant Padawan. We've seen it before. We've seen it with Anakin. We've seen it at times of Obi-Wan Kenobi in that first one, that, the purpose of them being a Padawan is that they're not Jedi Knights. They are inexperienced. They are learning. But it's interesting to get this perspective of someone who just wants to get home. And jumping on that speeder bike and kickstarting the events, Kalneka and Indira in the ship. I know I'm jumping ahead. I'm going to go back and forth. I'm basically doing a 25-minute monologue today. But to have these 2 moments set, Sol's going to go after Torbin. And I guess this is where I've really enjoyed the writing today. And I know maybe this episode's not going to be for everyone. I mentioned there's one massive problem I have, and I'll get to that shortly. But the fact that Sol combined with Torbin, it then takes into the logic of you have 2 Jedi. Sol should have obviously been telling him, like, don't do this, etc., etc. But Sol is in it for himself as well. He's really formed an attachment to someone he shouldn't have. Also, it's very cool to get the clips of May failing that flashback on failing the test on purpose just to get out. And it kind of goes back to episode 3 that we saw bits of her scenes before and after, not exactly what happened. So it was interesting to get scenes of May and Indira together, because I believe that's the first time they got to communicate with one another, of course, leading up to episode 1's opening, with her remembering her. That is to do with it. But I very much thought the Torbin side of things is where the episode really not comes into its own, but it branches off that the problem can't just be this Jedi we often episode 2. It can't be someone that was willing to commit suicide because we know he did something terrible. We know he's got scars on his faces. What else is the connection to bring you to this seismic reveal that is this TV series as a whole, right? It's the story purpose, is May and Osha and what split them up and who was telling the truth and who was lying. So it was integral, I think, to get these answers before the finale next week. My issue is it does leave a lot hanging for the finale. And if I kind of go off on that, the moment where I'm uncertain is the scenes with the witches, with Torbin and with Sol. Now, obviously, we have Coral, I don't know how it's pronounced, people are theorizing, could she be the Sith? No. I liked that she was riling up May, that she was like encouraging May to sort of lose control, get her temper, to go gear up to not necessarily attack the sister and start the fire, but it was interesting to see that side of things that led to the incident with May and Osha, that May didn't try and start a fire to murder her sister. She just started a fire to burn a book. Oh, my history tells us burning books isn't great, but it's one of those where you just have to sit there and wonder, said, okay, it's just a kid who's made another error. And it's this child who's been manipulated by somebody else. And as we followed the series, obviously you go to present day, she's someone that was manipulated as well by Kumir grabbing up, and that's who trained her. So you can tell that May is obviously an unreliable character in the prospect of morality and instinct, and she's someone that's easily manipulated. But it's great to see what started that fire. And then I guess the big moment is the witches versus the Jedi. Now, I'm just going to jump in and say the Torben stuff. I've really enjoyed that. That we just got to see them in action a bit. Just Jedi is using it for defense, blah, blah, blah. But Soul killing Anisea, I guess, is the big moment for the series. And it wasn't, I think, out of anger. It was out of fear that he thought they had done something to Osha. And as she, starts using witchcraft, and what if you'd call it, dissolve. It's like apparating in Harry Potter, isn't it? I say love the idea. It's a bit grotesque, but the moment in which Soul immediately goes to kill her, fearing he has formed the attachment, and we all know Yoda's speech from the first one, fears the path to the dark side, that we see him lose, he's felt as Jedi, basically. And that is responsible for everything that follows. He didn't gut down all the others. And then, obviously, going back to the trailer scenes, we then, of course, get the witches taking control of Kelnecker. Torben, of course, afraid as well. We got to see them playing with his mind, which is a very cool sequence. And I like that we got to see that sort of witchcraft type stuff that synced back to episode 3. And you could tell that he is fearful of that happening once more. But to see Kelnecker possessed by a witch in the duel was very cool. The fact that a Wookiee Jedi Master, obviously, would have destroyed the pair of them, which it was almost moving in that direction. We had, of course, Indira intervene. And this is probably my biggest issue of the episode. We end up in a very weird state of mind with all the witches dying through. I mean, I really hope I'm wrong. This is why I need someone else to be in this video, but the witches in the mine sort of doing spellcraft, etc., all died. With Indira, trying to get him out from the spell. Now, whether I've just missed something really obvious and it was the explosion of the building that killed them, did they all teleport inside somewhere that blew up? I don't know, but it goes from being nobodies and no witches to the body of, obviously, Anisea, and then it's suddenly everyone else has already died. That is something I'm not really a fan of, and I need to read into it a bit more. Again, I've not rewatched the episode. I'm going to probably rewatch the show between now and next Wednesday, but I don't like that. I thought it was very peculiar. I'm not saying that there's a force power where you could just kill everyone on the spot now, but it just felt very strange. Was part of the possession of somebody that they'd lose their mind and die or something? I don't know. I just felt like that moment was very sudden, and it's something that I'm not really a fan of. And you go back to episode 3 moment of all the dead bodies, including the mother, you always think something terrible happened here. And the reality was there's one person who was killed by mistake out of stupidity. And then the rest, I don't really know. And I don't normally criticize stuff I don't know, but I just thought it was a very, very strange storytelling decision. It felt so quick, like it was just there to get us things. But now I don't need to see Jedi just carving up loads of witches trying to do spells. I get that would probably look ridiculous. And as I mentioned, I really like the stuff with Torben and the Archers, where we just got to see him, defensively blocking everything. I liked the duel with Kelnecker and the Jedi. It was great, again, choreography-wise, and it's great to see a Wookiee Jedi in action. But just the moment at the end of possession, I'm really not a fan of at the moment. I need to have a chat with a couple of people, get some more people's thoughts. I've not read anything about this episode online today, so it's one of them where I've not I've not read plot summaries, etc. So that's something I'm not sure on, and it leaves a bit of a sting because I just think it's very odd. I know this series has been mixed for a lot of people, but for me, I very much enjoyed the show. But this moment today was just a bit, I don't know, strange, awkward, rushed. I'm not sure. But cutting to the part after that, where we of course have Sol trying to save both of them on the bridge, a sequence I loved. He knows he can't save both of them, but again, right, he's formed this attachment. He believes it's the Force's will for this Padawan Osha to be his, that he hasn't had a Padawan. They joke at the start of the episode. And we kind of know that's probably playing on his mind somewhat. But to get the moment where he willingly lets May die to put his effort onto saving one half of the bridge, which is Osha's part, I really liked the sequence to see not the conflict within him, but to see how much I guess he has failed and how desperate he was, how the attachment had already formed because he was so desperate to take this person on as a Padawan. And it is truly his own failings that have led to that. And it led to quite a brutal moment, but then you sink it back into how the episode was in episode 3, where you've got the bridge somewhat stumbling, not knowing that was Sol trying to save both of them, but ultimately he did pick and he did let his attachment grow from there, jump in to save her at the nick of time. Again, I like that moment, but bringing her back through the bodies, again, it didn't make sense to me. And maybe my favorite sequence from the episode is actually on board the ship at the end. It's like, how are they going to cover this up? You know, we've been told that they all died in a fire with May, and for that to be Indira's, so, you know, I'm going to tell the council that May started a fire, killed everyone. I kind of like that in a sadistic way, that I mentioned that she felt this innocent person. I was going back to episode 1 saying, oh man, she was just innocent. She was the only one actually trying to save her. She wanted them to be left in peace to do whatever it is they were going to do on Brendok. But the fact that Sol and Torben had to get involved, I like the ideas that then stem from this, that Torben took that vow. I forgot the name of it. It's on Star Wars Explained Channel, which is really cool to have a deep dive on that. The fact that Torben took that and was willing to die for like the years that follows. The fact that Indira still recognize her from the beginning of episode 1. The cover-up is a really interesting way, because a lot of people have been marketing the show as, oh, the Jedi aren't great. And we've kind of known from the prequels that there's an arrogance within the Jedi. They arrogantly presume the Sith didn't return. And a lot of that arrogance led to their downfall 100 years later from this. But I like the idea in the show that they're covering stuff up. And it's very normal, like, not to get into real politics, but come on, man, that stuff happens all the time. And in a situation such as this, Sol gains his apprentice from it. May obviously witnesses her mother being killed, and you understand why she has a hit list of the 4 Jedi that turned up that day. Granted, it's only 2 of their fault, and really sad Kalneka's the only truly innocent one from the lot. You look at him in the jungle when he was drawing all the patterns and whatnot, he's probably been traumatized for 16 years of the witchcraft that sort of possessed him. But I really like how the episode ended. A caveat from that is we've got 1 episode after the show, and I don't know how they're going to be able to round off the stories. Now, I know there are murmurs of a second season, and obviously we've had nothing officially said to us, announced, whether that would be D23 or Celebration, if there would be an announcement. Whether there wouldn't be a second season, then I really hope the show has some closure, because I feel like there's a lot to wrap up. Like, yes, we got the outcome of the second flashback today, but looking into the present day, what's happened 16 years later, we've got Sol with May. Guessing today's episode is him telling the story at the same time to her. We've got Khmer with Osha having put on the helmet. I feel like there's a lot to do in 45 minutes. Now, the murmurs of a 45-minute episode like today, which is a little bit longer than we've had on other episodes, but I am somewhat worried that we are going to have a very rushed finale, and the moment of all those witches, click the finger and they're dead. That has me a little bit worried for next week, if I'm really honest. So heading into my thoughts for next week, I don't know what's going to happen for story-wise. It seems not too obvious. Like, May's not going to switch to the light side. I can't see Osha clicking the fingers and becoming Sith, or trying to, but I certainly think Sol's not going to make that from next week. May will probably kill him, or he will kill himself, which is, and if I'm being honest, he's currently the only live one out of those 4 Jedi. And given that he committed the atrocities from that, telling someone that, I killed your mother by accident, I thought she was trying to harm her daughter when she was actually trying to release her and let her go to the Jedi. It's a lot to put into 40 minutes. And are they going to do it? I hope so. I know that, obviously, as I said, I've enjoyed the structure of the season so far. I have enjoyed the season overall, but I'm slightly worried heading into the finale that we might run out of time, and that can be a problem with a lot of shows like this. So it is an interesting one. And as I said, today's episode is weird because it's me by myself. I'm very curious to hear from Sam, Phil, and Dave when they've seen it, when they've all caught up. As I mentioned, I'm recording a lot earlier today because football's on at 8. No one's going to be watching anything with the England games tonight, are they? And I know it's the middle of the night in America, so we haven't got a lot of our usual commenters on. So I'm going to politely round up 20 minutes. That will do for today. I do want to hear from other people, so please do comment your thoughts on the Acolyte. Comment your thoughts on today. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Also, the song in the credits, strange. I'm not being snob like Styles criticism of that. Bob Fett singing and stuff. It felt very eerie, very odd for a credit sequence. But again, that's such a fucking minor thing for me to talk about. As I said, my gaping issue is, can they actually complete this series in a 45-minute episode of TV next Wednesday? I will be watching it, maybe not be watching it live, but I will be watching it next week. And I hope the show was a great outcome. So I have very much enjoyed the series. And I like what they've done. It does feel very different to a lot of the other Star Wars shows we have seen. And if you have liked this video, you can go get us on social medias. We announce sort of other videos: Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Facebook, or on linktree.com/cinemasavvy. We've got a Redbubble link in that description, as well as a link to all of our other Acolyte videos, so you can check all of them out. What's coming up for the channel? Well, I've seen a lot of new releases. I've been catching up to stuff. There are some new shows in the pipeline. Things have been very quiet. Life's been very important, so I've not been doing videos as much. So maybe after the Acolyte's out next week, there'll be maybe a channel update video at some point in the coming weeks. But it has been very busy. We've had Doctor 2, we've had the Acolyte, we've got House of the Dragon airing, we've got The Boys airing. There's a lot of TV. We've got Wolverine and Deadpool coming out in a couple of weeks too. We've got Twisters out next week. I need to get a review out for the first Twister film, as I did watch that yesterday. So there's lots of stuff happening on the channel, and you can get involved, of course, so please do. But this is going to do it for today. So thank you all for watching, and be sure to join us on the next one. Take care.